Hello, everybody. Sorry for being late. Apparently I'm fired for spending too much time talking while lunch, so apologies for that. But great to have you all back, and we've got a different change in gear shift here. We're now going to be moving on to sort of much more faster presentations. But right now, we're going to have the pleasure of the company of Vlad from G5, who's going to tell us all about casual games on Android. Without further ado, over to Vlad.
Thank you. So, my name is Vlad SUGLOBOV. I'm CEO and co-founder of G5 Entertainment AB. And before we start, how many of you have been to my presentation in Kiev in October? All right. So, the title of the presentation was 10 million casual downloads on Android, but during the time that I've been preparing the presentation, it became more like 12 million. So if you're not aware of this, there is this new trend that the number of smartphones and tablets that is going to be sold in the years to come is going to be outpacing the number of personal computers. And by year 2020, there will be what's the number 10 billion mobile connected devices, iPhones and tablets, and that is compared to around 1 billion PCs in 2008, and their sales will be more or less stagnant in the next 10 years. So we're talking about a game platform with an install base of around 10 billion, and it's going to be much larger than PC right now. And this platform is already emerging and is growing fast. And G5 as a company is already making around 90% of its revenue from mobile, riding this trend. Not surprisingly, the number of downloads in the mobile app stores, iTunes App Store and Android market are set to take off. In the next year, we're going to see the growth, like a hockey stick growth, and this growth is only beginning in terms of the adoption of these mobile app downloads among people that will be using smartphones and tablets, and there will be more and more of them in the years to come. And during this holiday season, I think Google announced that they were seeing 700,000 Android device activations per day. And another thing here to see is that it's forecasted that next year the number of downloads in the Android market will outpace the number of downloads on iTunes App Store. Well, we'll see if it's true, but Android is growing very fast. So our focus as a publisher and developer is on strategy and adventure, time management, hidden object games. A little bit about the company. Founded in 2001, we were making mobile games, and we released a first mobile game, downloadable mobile game in 2003 on Verizon Wireless in USA. Then we developed actually a lot of games for publishers like EA Mobile, Disney, Konami, THQ as well. And we did the Sims games, Simpsons, Star Wars, Scarface, many movie and video game brands. In 2006, we went public in Stockholm, and then we started making casual games, actually, attracted by the fact that you can create and successfully sell an original IP in this market. And in 2009, we started publishing these games on iOS, and in 2011, we added Android to our supported platforms. As of right now, we're valued at around $50 million on the stock exchange. That was, about twice what it was when I was speaking in Kiev. And we have more than 100 staff in several locations, including San Francisco, where I'm based. So we have around 40 million downloads at the moment across 2 platforms and over 177 mobile apps. Well, it's 177 is more like a precise number. And we release 1 game a week, and we have a pipeline which is planned ahead for around a year, and we're licensing and developing more games. We've been doubling our revenue for the past 2 years, and it looks like this trend is going to continue this year. And we have already paid millions of dollars to developers in revenue share from mobile platforms. This is our monthly downloads chart over the course of the past 2 years, and you can also see that the trend is for the monthly download numbers to increase in recent months. Yeah, it's like the first 4 million downloads that we had, it took us about a year to accomplish, and then the last 4 million were in December. So we also launched our games on Kindle Fire through Amazon Appstore in November. So now to find our games, you can search the iTunes App Store, Mac App Store, Android Market, Amazon App Store. Just search for G5. You will see the apps. And we have games that have grossed over US $1 million on iOS alone, actually, and more games are quickly entering this club. We have over 35 partners right now that publish their games on mobile platforms through us. This number is growing. We're signing up new studios every month. And yeah, we offer flexible cooperation terms, and we're really flexible regarding whether it's a development or licensing deal and who does the porting. We're good at that. So Android. We launched our games on Android in August in 2011. And since then, we had over 12 million downloads, which, as I've calculated, and in the Android market, you can actually see the numbers. There's a range of downloads for every application that is displayed. I know our numbers exactly, and then I can guess with a very good precision what the numbers of our competitors are. So we have around 100 times more downloads on Android than Big Fish Games does. And the next, I mean, the closest publisher to us who publishes similar format games on Android market has around 10 times less downloads than we do, as of yesterday, at least. So we released 15 games on Kindle Fire in December 2011. Well, actually, we were releasing them through November, from November to January, and we continue to be releasing these games. And I haven't seen the charts today, but we used to have 6 to 8 games in the top 100 paid games on Kindle Fire quite constantly within the past few weeks. And I mean, in just a few months, we've seen over $1 million revenue from Android platform. And we were actually pleasantly surprised because the common sense and a lot of people were telling us that it's difficult to make money on Android market, and it's difficult to make money on Android, and you have to use the ad-based model, but we just charge people for games. And we actually keep a rather high price point. Our price point on Android is $4.99, and that is something that developers like about working with G5. We don't go down to 99 cents, and I think this helps preserve the value. I mean, developers want to see value in what they're doing, and we come from development background ourselves, so we think it's the right thing to keep the price points rather high. So just to put this a little bit more in perspective, whenever a developer, right now, I mean, there are many companies that are saying that they are publishing games not only on PC but on mobile as well, and it's like a bonus to the PC, and they like to take away the mobile rights from a developer who develops a PC downloadable game. So just, if you're involved in developing downloadable games, think about that every time you're giving away the rights to Android to one of the companies, not mentioned actually in this presentation, you're giving away a large chunk of revenue because these companies have not yet figured out how to make money on Android. And I don't know, you have to really value these rights. And the best you can do at the moment to start making money on Android is pretty much work with us, I think. So what we've learned from our experience with Android so far in these 5 or 6 months, first of all, Android users, they are like iOS users or PC users. They really want to see high-quality games, high-quality content. They are no different in this respect. And there aren't really many such games on Android market because somehow everybody thought you can't really make money there. So you cannot really, if you look through Android market, try searching for time management, hidden object games, there aren't many to be found. So there is this opportunity to be there among the first games on these platforms and make money. So conversion, which is a ratio of people purchasing the game compared to people who are trying to play the game, can be lower than on iOS. You can assume it's going to be lower. It can be half from the rate that we see on iOS. There are some explanations to it, and of course, one is that, on iTunes, everybody, if you have an iPhone, chances are you already have your credit card stored with iTunes, so the purchase is really easy. But if you have an Android phone, your credit card details are not stored with Android market at the moment when you buy the phone. For most people, it's not like that. So there is this initial hurdle for people. When they like the game, they try to purchase it. The system asks them to enter their credit card information. And that is a certain hurdle through which, not everybody is actually, getting through it. Not to mention that in some countries, credit cards are not so widespread. So although actually Google introduced carrier billing last year, so in certain countries and certain operators, buyers actually can pay with their mobile account balance. Still, the conversion rate is lower, but then if you can drive 2 times more downloads than you do in iOS, you can make a comparable revenue. Then we also found out that because the marketplace is not that crowded, the off-peak revenue for a downloadable casual game on Android market can be actually higher than on iOS. So there's opportunity for some back catalog titles to actually make unexpectedly decent money on this market. And in terms of geographical distribution, right now US is about 50% of what we see. We saw a similar picture in the early days of iOS platform, and then we expect that it's going to be more evenly distributed, like 30% US, 30% Europe, 30% Asia. So how do you do it on Android to achieve success? You have to ignore people who says there's no money. Maybe they haven't figured out for themselves how to make money on Android. I mean, the numbers I'm talking, they're real. And I think these are rather significant numbers for just a few downloadable casual games. So you can check out these numbers. Just go to marketandroid.com, search for G5, look at the numbers of other companies, make your own conclusions. So also, there are certain stores that are trying to replicate their PC model on Android. And they're actively soliciting content into their stores. But what you have to ask them is how many users you have, what kind of revenue you have, what kind of downloads you have. And when you start asking them these questions, the answer quite often is, actually none right now, but we're launching next month, whatever. So just make sure you go to the store which actually has users with credit card details, is driving revenue, driving downloads. Another thing, Android users really want to see your game as it is on PC. Try hard, try to make the game exactly the same experience. Don't do content reduction, don't remove mini games, don't scale down the images. You really have to work hard to squeeze the game into this rather compact device, but it's worth it. I mean, people want to see your game in its beauty. Don't cut it. then, of course, you have to drive traffic. It's not enough just placing the game on Android market and assuming that users will come. So this is something that G5 can help you with, actually. We have our monthly audience of people playing these games is actually millions of people. And we can take your game in front of these people. So there is certain advantage in publishing a game with us at the moment, is that we can guarantee you certain exposure with the audience that is interested in this kind of games. Another thing to consider is the technology that you want to use to port your games. We have a talisman technology that we have developed in-house in G5, and I think it's quite an accomplishment. We are actually able to port an iOS game built with talisman technology to Android market, to Android platform, in only 2 weeks. When, for most developers, I would estimate the amount of time required to do that in a few months. So if you are flexible in terms of how do you want to build your game, you might want to explore licensing talisman from us in order to achieve, to leverage the cross-platform part and get to the market sooner. Then QA, of course, is actually a pain on Android. You have rather fragmented marketplace with tens of different handsets using different chipsets. So you have to make sure that your game works with the most important chipsets, and then you can hope that on other handsets using this chipset the game will function properly. Again, by using Talisman and using G5's experience with QA and mobile QA, you can pretty much use our experience with all these handsets because it's already built into the technology, and we have the phones in our office, and we have a QA team of 30 people actually with the handsets. So whenever we publish a game on Android, it goes through multiple quality checks, and we make sure that it is compatible with the major, like the core, at least, number of handsets. And then the new handsets are coming out regularly. So even though, if you look at the user reviews for our games, there are like 4.5 stars out of 5. But then every now and then somebody complains that the game is not functioning properly on some newly released handset. So then our team needs to actually get that handset, make sure the engine is fixed to have the game properly running on it. So it's sort of an ongoing service that you have to provide if you go to Android market. So just keep it in mind. I mean, it's difficult to go there with one game. So it makes sense to go through publisher actually if you only have 1 or 2 games. Yeah. So it seems like, it might seem that Android is an emerging mobile platform with the fragmentation, with its challenges, with small screens, sometimes crappy phones, sometimes good phones, and then you have to deal with all this complexity. And while it's so much more convenient to just go PC, but in fact, the thing is that the Android market alone was making 1 billion downloads a month in September. And we all know a company here that stresses that they had 1 billion downloads in their lifetime. It's more over a span of 10 years. And Android market alone is 1 billion downloads a month. It's just, these are very different markets. Android market is a truly mass market. So mobile platforms, iOS, Android, is actually very disruptive to the model of the PC portals that have all these downloadable casual games. And because Android market and iOS Appstore, they're actually a replacement for these portals. And very soon, every one of us is going to have an iPad or a tablet or a smartphone. It's going to be much more convenient to enjoy these casual games on these devices. So these PC portals, sooner or later, they're going to be marginalized. So we're talking about a situation where the mass market is mobile, and it's coming much sooner than some might think. So you really have to be there. You have to be on iOS. You have to be on Android market. It's a question of survival, if you will, or at least staying, growing with the market, so to speak, if you don't want to stay in the stagnating PC market. Still, there's definitely a need for traffic. Like I said, it's difficult to drive traffic with one game unless it's some groundbreaking product. So it makes sense for publishers to exist in this situation where they can drive traffic and cross-sell games. So what we expect is that PC portals in new mobile reality, they won't be as dominant as they were in the past. And there will be place for really like several, and I mean multiple number of different players in the field, which is great because there's going to be more competition, so developers will be getting better terms, and developers will have much more ability to express their creativity because they also no longer need to tailor their offering towards a specific audience of the PC portals, but they can really try and find their specific audience because they can address such a huge number of people through these stores. So what you need to do right now to get to this future is that you can convert your existing casual games to iOS and Android. And the next thing not to miss, of course, is to convert your best franchises to freemium social games on iOS and Android. So what we offer as a publisher is competitive terms, royalty advances. You can tap into the experience of our producers, and they provide very valuable feedback on adapting your games for mobile platforms. We have Talisman technology, which allows you to quickly port your game through from iOS to Android, and there will be more platforms coming. Our goal is to maximize your revenue across all platforms. Some other companies would go, to the lowest possible price points just to increase their market share. Our goal is to make developers happy, working with us, and so that they can get maximum revenue per game, because we understand that it's so important for independent developers to maximize their revenue from a single product. So we're doing publishing, promotion. We are cross-selling your product with other products in our portfolio. Millions of our monthly players will see your game when it is launched. It guarantees the exposure needed to make sure your game is actually in the charts. So while and it's really opportunity to make $1 million while you are preparing for the next step and going, and becoming independent from the PC market and going mobile. So briefly on the freemium social, we have developed this Virtual City game, which was originally a downloadable casual game, and then we converted it to the freemium format, which we called Playground, and we called it Virtual City Playground, which is essentially a game powered by microtransactions and a similar monetization model to Facebook games, right? So we launched it on iPad in September, and we launched it on iPhone and Android in October during Casual Connect days, actually. So like I said back then, that the monetization works better, the player engagement is higher with this kind of games, and you can monetize a person over and over again. So there's opportunity to make much more money per player compared to the downloadable game. It's just an illustration of which basically was the same, more or less the same screenshot for the original Virtual City game, and this is the Playground version. You can see there's an opportunity to add credits and points, the level, and the energy level that you have. So these are the updated rank charts from the iPad version, and actually, yeah. So the Virtual City Playground is on the left, and you can see that we went quite high in the charts, and the game was like in 92 countries. It was in the top 100 grossing games. And compared to the Cityville hometown in the right bottom corner, we did actually very well. So which just shows that in this really unconquered mobile space, an independent developer with a franchise from a casual downloadable space can actually create a game that will compete successfully against an established desktop franchise. I think Cityville is an example of a desktop franchise, right? Because people are playing this game on Facebook, on their PC. So there is clearly an opportunity for a casual franchise to be a freemium social hit on mobile. And you can do just that with your successful casual franchise if you team up with G5. We are ready to share the knowledge we have on achieving these results. So it's not really limited to city builder games and genres. It can also work for time management, hidden object games. And we provide financing, advice, producer, QA, talisman technology, and of course traffic and cross-selling with our other games. So that's actually the end of the presentation. So thank you very much. And you have any questions, please step forward.
Thank you very much, Vlad. That's been brilliant. Thank you. Okay, so do we have any questions for Vlad? Do we have any questions for Vlad? Any brave soul in the audience? No? Okay, well, I'm going to chuck one at you because obviously I'm a very big fan of the Android market and particularly the success that we've had as Papyrus with freemium. I thought it was fascinating you talking about things like the movement from premium to freemium. But one thing I was really interested in is you talked about taking the same game from a PC experience to mobile. Now that seems completely at odds at my experience, but I'd love to know what is it you think you've managed to grab? Is it that you're choosing the right games to transfer? I think you gave Cityville as a good example. That's an example where I think they haven't necessarily managed to translate very well. And there are lots of developers who seem to struggle taking exactly the same code.
Right.
What have you done that's different?
Well, I think we might not be able to actually say what exactly that we do right. It's just that our background in mobile is like 10 years long now. So we've always been working on mobile games. And the moment the iPhone came out, we sort of realized what kind of change is upcoming. And we were really, we really understood what needs to be changed in the PC game. I mean, you squeeze it into the small screen, and then you figure out what you have to change in order for this to be a pleasant experience for the player. And I think this is what we're good at, and this is what our producers are good at advising the developer on what is going to work, what is not going to work on mobile. And then we also understand casual games market as well, because we released a few successful games there, which performed rather well on the PC portals. So we have that perspective as well, and we can pick and choose games that we think will work on mobile.
I think that's a very good point. I mean, particularly, I think it's realizing the essential gameplay needs to be there, but maybe some tweaks on the interface might make sense.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. These are all rather obvious, actually. I mean, you reduce your interface to a small screen, and then you realize that it might be difficult for a player to actually tap that really tiny object. Because on a PC, you had a cursor with a basically pixel precision to pick small details, and then it has to be done differently. On mobile, where people have really thick fingers, they still need to enjoy your game. So some things there might need to be changed. I mean, we see it with a lot of mini games. You really have to adapt the gameplay on those mini games. And these are all tiny, obvious details, but when we usually provide a document to a developer outlining what needs to be done with their game so that it works on small screen iPhones and Android devices, it's actually like 15 to 20 pages document, surprisingly. So I guess it's just this sheer amount of practical knowledge what has to be changed.
And attention to detail.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. And what we'll do is give Vlad a final round of applause. And I'm going to ask Devarius Brown to come up and get himself set up.